I found secret texts between my fiancé and my sister. I panicked and canceled my wedding on the spot only to find out they weren't having an affair and were planning to surprise me with my dream house as a wedding gift. I'm supposed to be getting married in a little over a month, or I was. I've been with my fiancé for 5 years, engaged for 1. We've lived together for 3. My sister and I are close, or at least I thought we were. She's always been a big presence in my life, sometimes too much, but I never doubted her intentions toward me. I trusted both of them completely. That's what makes this so hard to even type out. 2 nights ago, I was using my fiancé's iPad to order some last-minute wedding favors. Mine was dead and his was already open, so I didn't think twice. While I was checking out, a notification banner popped up from messages. It was from my sister, but not under her actual name. It was under a nickname she only ever uses with people she's close to. That alone made my stomach drop. I know I shouldn't have clicked it, I know, but I did. And once I saw the thread, I couldn't stop. There were months of messages, not explicit, not flirty in an obvious way, but intimate in a way that made my skin crawl. Talking about things being almost done, about how she couldn't know yet, about how lying felt awful but necessary, about how once everything was over, it would be worth it, about timing, about pressure, about stress, nothing sexual, but nothing innocent either. I just sat there staring at it, trying to make my brain come up with an explanation that didn't involve the 2 people I loved most lying to my face. I took screenshots, all of them. I didn't say anything that night. I didn't sleep either. Over the next 2 days, I started noticing things I hadn't paid attention to before. My sister suddenly had money she never used to have. My fiancé kept leaving for errands that didn't make sense. They were weird around each other, not flirty but tense, like they were constantly watching what they said, like they were in on something I wasn't. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. I didn't want to be that person, the jealous fiancé who reads too much into nothing. But the feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. We had a family dinner scheduled at my parents' house that weekend. Everyone was there. My parents, my sister, my fiancé, a few relatives. I went into it already wound tight, telling myself I would just observe, that I wouldn't make a scene unless I was absolutely sure. I lasted about 20 minutes. Something small set me off. I don't even remember what it was. The way they looked at each other maybe, or how quiet they got when I walked into the kitchen. I felt like I was going to throw up. My chest was tight and my hands were shaking, and I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I asked him, in front of everyone, if there was something he wanted to tell me. He froze, like completely froze. Didn't deny it, didn't ask what I meant, just stared at me. My sister started crying immediately. That was all I needed. I told them I knew about the messages. I said I wasn't stupid and I wasn't going to be humiliated in my own relationship. I said I was done. I didn't yell, but I was shaking so badly I could barely get the words out. My fiancé tried to say something, but I cut him off. I told him the wedding was off. I told my parents not to bother trying to fix this. I grabbed my bag and left. On the drive home, I called the venue and told them we were canceling. I emailed the vendors. I posted a vague Instagram story saying the wedding was off and I needed space. I packed a bag and left the apartment that night. I didn't even take everything, just enough to get by. I spent that night at a friend's place, crying on her couch and replaying everything in my head. I felt embarrassed, furious, devastated, and weirdly relieved all at once, like something awful had finally been confirmed instead of just suspected. The next morning, my phone was blowing up. Missed calls from my fiancé, messages from my parents, texts from relatives asking what happened. I didn't respond to anyone. Then around noon, there was a knock at the door. It was my sister. She looked unhinged, crying, shaking, mascara running. The second I opened the door, she started yelling that I had ruined everything, that I had no idea what I'd done, that I had destroyed something that was supposed to be good, that I'd made everything worse. I asked her what exactly I'd ruined. She just kept repeating that I wasn't supposed to find out like this, that I should have trusted them, that I had no idea what they were doing for me. I told her to leave. She screamed that I had no idea what I just destroyed and walked off. I'm sitting here now, alone, with my wedding canceled, my family barely speaking to me, and no clear answers. All I know is that the 2 people I trusted most were hiding something huge from me, and when I confronted them, I became the villain. I don't even know what I'm asking for here. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Did I overreact? I honestly don't know anymore. Update 1. I posted my first post half out of panic and half because I genuinely didn't know if I had just ruined my own life over paranoia. A lot has happened since then, and honestly, I feel worse now than I did when I walked out of my own engagement. I ignored my phone at first because I didn't have the energy to argue with anyone. By the second day, I had dozens of missed calls and messages. Most of them weren't even from my fiancé. They were from my parents, my aunt, and a couple of mutual friends asking what I had done and why I was overreacting. That's when I realized something was off. When I finally answered my mom, she didn't ask if I was okay. She told me I needed to calm down and stop making things worse. She said my sister was hysterical and my fiancé was devastated, and that I needed to sit down and let them explain. The way she said it made it sound like I was the problem, not the person who found months of secret messages between the two people closest to me. Later that night, my fiancé showed up where I was staying. I didn't let him in at first. I didn't trust myself not to lose it. Eventually I did, because I wanted answers more than anything. He didn't deny the messages. He didn't even try to minimize them. What he kept repeating was that it wasn't an affair and that nothing physical had ever happened. He said they were planning something for me, something big, something that was supposed to be a surprise after the wedding. He kept saying I wasn't supposed to find out like this and that I'd ruined the timing. I asked him what exactly they were planning. He wouldn't say, just that it was a good thing, that it was meant to make me happy, that my sister wanted to do something meaningful for me. That's when I lost my patience. I told him that people don't hide things for months, move money around, and lie to their partner if it's something harmless. I told him I didn't care if it wasn't sexual. It was still a betrayal. He kept insisting I was jumping to conclusions and that I needed to trust him, which felt insane, considering he'd already admitted to lying. My sister called me later that night. She cried the entire time, said I'd misunderstood everything, said I wasn't supposed to see those messages, and that I'd taken them out of context. She kept repeating that it was a surprise and that I was ruining something that was meant to be good. She refused to tell me what the surprise was. That's when I realized something else was happening. Neither of them was actually apologizing. They were upset that I found out, not that they lied. Over the next couple of days, things got worse. Word got around to extended family. Somehow the story turned into me having a breakdown and canceling my wedding over nothing. People started messaging me asking if I was okay mentally. A cousin told me I was being dramatic and throwing away a good man. One of my friends asked if I was self-sabotaging again, which hurt more than I want to admit. I also found out that my fiancé had already told people we were just taking a break and that I was emotional. Not that he'd been lying to me for months, not that I'd found secret messages, just that I was overwhelmed and lashed out. That's when I started looking deeper. I checked our joint account. I hadn't looked closely in a while because I trusted him. There were withdrawals I didn't recognize. Not huge ones, but enough to stand out. When I traced them back, I realized they lined up with the same time frame as the messages. I checked again and again, then I saw it. A second account. Not one I had access to. His name and my sister's name attached to it. I felt sick. There were transfers going into it regularly. Some from him, some from her. I started digging through old emails and found ones from a realtor, property listings, paperwork language I didn't fully understand but recognized enough to know it had to do with buying something. That's when the confusion turned into something colder. Because even if they weren't having an affair, they were doing something big behind my back. Something that involved money we shared. Something they both agreed I wasn't allowed to know about. I confronted him again. This time I asked directly about the account. He didn't deny it. He just looked tired and said it wasn't what I thought and that I needed to stop digging before I made things worse. That sentence stuck with me. Stop digging. Not, let me explain. Not, you deserve to know. Just stop digging. At that point, I realize how alone I am in this. My family is on my sister's side. My fiancé is protecting whatever secret they are sharing and refuse to come clean. Update 2. I got a voicemail from the realtor. I just stared at my phone for a long time, trying to decide if this was some kind of mistake. I called the number back. The realtor assumed I already knew everything. She talked like I was supposed to be excited. She confirmed my name, congratulated me, and said she just needed to know if I'd be present at the closing the next day or if my fiancé and sister would be attending on my behalf. That's when my stomach dropped. I asked her what property she was talking about. She described it in detail, the street, the layout, the neighborhood. It was the exact area I grew up in, the one I'd always said I wanted to live in again someday but could never afford, the kind of place I'd casually pointed out over the years and joked about maybe someday. A small house, not fancy, but with a yard and an old porch and enough space to breathe. I hung up and just sat there. I drove by it later that day without telling anyone. I didn't go inside. I didn't have to. I recognized it immediately from the photos I'd seen online years ago. It was real. It was there. And apparently it was meant to be mine. That's when everything finally started coming out. I confronted my fiancé again, this time with the facts. I told him I knew about the house. I told him I knew about the account. I told him I knew he and my sister had been planning something behind my back for months. He didn't deny it anymore. He admitted they had been trying to buy it together as a surprise for me after the wedding. He said my sister had put in a large portion of the money and he'd been contributing what he could. He said they were close to finalizing everything and that's why things had gotten so secretive. Then he dropped the part that made my head spin. My sister is sick. Not the kind of sick that shows. Not something she talks about. Something serious. Something she hasn't told most of the family. He said she didn't want pity and didn't want people treating her differently. She wanted to do something meaningful while she still could, something that would last, something that would help me long after she was gone. The house was supposed to be that thing. I sat there listening, feeling like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. On paper, it sounded generous, thoughtful even, but all I could think about was how they had done it. They moved money without telling me. They lied to my face. They watched me spiral and didn't step in. They let me cancel my wedding publicly and humiliate myself. They let my family think I was unstable. When I said that out loud, my fiancé told me I was focusing on the wrong thing. He said the intention mattered more than how it looked. He said I should be grateful anyone cared enough to do something like that for me. That's when I snapped. I told him that intentions don't erase betrayal, that surprises don't excuse secrecy, that love doesn't look like letting someone doubt their own reality. He didn't understand that part, or maybe he didn't want to. My sister called later that night. She sounded exhausted. She admitted she'd been helping plan everything. She said she didn't tell me because she knew I would say no. She said she wanted it to be pure, without me feeling like I owed her anything. She said she wanted to give me something I could never give myself. But the more she talked, the more it felt wrong. She admitted she knew the messages looked bad. She admitted she hadn't corrected it because she liked knowing she was important to both of us. She liked being the one in the middle. She said she didn't mean it in a bad way, but she liked feeling needed. That part stuck with me. I asked her why she didn't just tell me the truth once things started falling apart. She said she thought I'd calm down eventually, that I'd realize it was all for me and forgive them. Instead, I felt something inside me shut off. I told her I didn't want the house. I told her I didn't care how much it cost or what it represented. I told her I didn't want something that came from lies and secrecy and humiliation. That didn't go over well. She accused me of being ungrateful, said I was throwing away the biggest gift of my life, said I was making her illness about me. That word spread fast. Suddenly, people were looking at me like I was some kind of monster, like I'd rejected a dying woman's last wish. My fiancé told me I'd ruined the happiest moment of his life, that he'd worked so hard for this, that I was selfish for not seeing the bigger picture. That's when I realized something important. This wasn't about a house. This was about decisions being made for me, about people deciding what was best for me without giving me a choice, about being lied to and expected to be grateful for it. I just told them both I needed space. Update 3. I've been sitting on this update for a few days because I needed to make sure I wasn't reacting purely out of anger. I also needed time to sort through what I found because once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, and it changed how I viewed everything that happened before. After I refused the house and told both my fiancé and my sister I needed space, things got very quiet. Too quiet. No apologies, no explanations. Just a weird, tense silence where everyone seemed to be waiting for me to come to my senses. That alone told me a lot. What finally pushed everything over the edge was something small. I was trying to close out loose ends from the wedding cancellation vendors, deposits, paperwork, and I realized I still had access to an old shared email account my sister and I used years ago for planning family stuff. I hadn't checked it in ages. I wasn't snooping at first. I was looking for a contract I remembered sending myself. What I found instead were emails that were never meant for me. Not romantic, not flirty, but way worse. There were messages between my sister and a friend of hers that went back almost a year, and the tone was off, possessive, calculated. the kind of casual honesty people use when they don't think they'll ever be caught. She talked about me like I was a problem to be managed, like I was unstable, emotional, incapable of making good choices on my own. She talked about how I always needed someone and how she didn't trust my fiancé to keep me grounded unless she stayed involved. Then I saw the line that made my stomach drop. She wrote that if she helped give me the house, I'd never leave her, that I'd always feel like I owed her, that it would lock me in emotionally, no matter what happened later. That's when everything clicked. This was never just a gift, it was leverage. She wanted to be the person I depended on most, the one who made the big sacrifices, the one who got credit for saving me. And my fiancé let it happen because it made his life easier, because he didn't want to fight her, because he didn't want to be the bad guy who said no. I confronted him again, this time calmly. I told him what I found. I asked him if he knew she saw it that way. He didn't deny it. He admitted he'd had doubts early on, that he'd worried it would cross a line. But he told himself it was harmless because she means well, and she's always been intense. He said he didn't think I'd ever find out about those messages, and when I did, he hoped I'd just cool off and eventually accept the house anyway. That was the moment something broke for good. I realized he had watched me unravel, watched me cancel my own wedding, watched me be painted as unstable and dramatic, and he still chose silence because it was easier than standing up to her. So I stopped playing defense. I sent the screenshots to my parents, not with commentary, just the emails. I sent them to my aunt, to my cousin who had been blowing up my phone calling me selfish. I sent them to the same people who'd told me I was cruel for refusing the house. Then I sent one final message to my sister. I told her I knew why she did it. I told her I knew she didn't want to help me. She wanted to own a part of my life. I told her I didn't care how sick she was or how much money she spent. She didn't get to control me through guilt. And then I blocked her. The fallout was immediate. My phone exploded. Some people apologized. Others doubled down and said I should be more understanding given her health. A few told me I was heartless for exposing her when she didn't have much time left. My fiancé showed up at my place unannounced, crying, saying I'd gone too far, that I'd humiliated her. That's when I finally said the thing I'd been holding back. I told him the wedding was permanently off, not postponed, not on hold. Over. I told him I couldn't marry someone who watched me be manipulated and called it love. Someone who let me doubt my own reality because it was more convenient than being honest. He didn't argue, he just looked defeated, like he'd known this was coming. The last thing I did before cutting contact was send a short message to my family group chat. I told them I wasn't asking anyone to take sides, but I was done being painted as the villain for refusing to be controlled. I said I needed distance and I wouldn't be explaining myself again. Then I packed what I could fit in my car and left. And for the first time since this all started, I feel better and calm. Final update. I didn't plan on coming back with another update, but after I left and cut contact, things stayed quiet for a while. Too quiet. I was staying with a friend a few hours away, trying to figure out what my life even looked like without a wedding, without my sister, without the future I thought I was walking into. I wasn't crying every day anymore, but I also wasn't really feeling much of anything, just numb. A few weeks after I left, I got a call from my mom. She sounded tired, not angry, just worn down. She told me my sister had taken a turn for the worse and was in the hospital. I already knew she was sick, but hearing it put like that made it real in a way it hadn't been before. I didn't go see her. I thought about it. A lot. I sat with the idea for days, but every time I imagined walking into that room, I felt that same tight feeling in my chest, the same pressure of being expected to fix things, to make things okay, to put my feelings aside for everyone else's comfort. I couldn't do it. A few days later, I found out she passed. I didn't cry when I heard. That part surprised me. I think I'd already done all my grieving while she was still alive. Grieved the sister I thought I had. Grieved the relationship I thought was real. What I felt instead was this heavy, hollow quiet. The will came up not long after. I didn't ask about it, but people told me anyway. She left the house to my ex-fiancé. Everything else went to our parents. I wasn't mentioned at all. And honestly, that didn't hurt the way people probably expected it to. What hurt more was finding out she'd left a letter. Not to me. To him. In it, she apparently admitted that she wanted to be the person I needed most. That she hated always feeling like she came second in my life. That she thought if she could give me something big enough, something permanent, I'd never walk away from her again. That was the part that finally made everything make sense. The house was never about me having a future. It was about her securing a place in it. My ex reached out not long after the funeral. He told me he was selling the house, said it felt wrong living there without me, said he finally understood how much he messed up. He said he chose comfort over honesty, and that decision cost him everything. He asked if we could talk. I said no. Not in an angry way, not in a dramatic way, just no. I told him I wasn't interested in reopening something that broke me the first time around. I told him I hoped he figured his life out, but it wouldn't include me. He didn't fight me on it. I think that's when it really hit him. My parents still think I should have handled things differently. They think I should have gone easier on my sister because she was sick. They think I should have forgiven more, asked fewer questions, been more understanding. We talk, but it's surface level now. Holidays, birthdays, short calls, nothing deep. And I'm okay with that. I moved to a new city a few months ago, got a different job, started therapy, made friends who only know me as I am now, not as someone's daughter or sister or fiancé. I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells anymore. I don't feel like I owe anyone silence or patience or understanding at my own expense. Some days I still get sad. I think about what could have been if people had just been honest from the start, if I hadn't been put in a position where I had to choose between my dignity and my family. But then I remember how small I felt during all of it, how often I doubted myself, how quickly everyone expected me to swallow things that hurt. And I know I made the right call.